All right, so I've stripped it down all the way to the point of taking off the water pump. And in the process of doing so, I verified that the timing was off on this passenger side. It was off about a tooth and a half, or 2 teeth or so, anywhere from 1 to 2. The driver's side was on correct. The other thing I did was I set the flywheel to top dead center, which is something I didn't do before. I set it to 45 before, but I'm doing top dead center because I can actually verify the timing, because there's little tick marks on the back side of these cam gears, and they line up with reference points on the rear cover, and I'll point those out when I install the belt. But what I'm going to do now is clean this up, dry it off, and then put the silicone gasket along with the gasket, along with the water pump. I'll install that, and then I'm planning on actually partially reassembling the front end here, running it, and then verifying there's no leaks, and then continuing on with the rest of the assembly. I figure that's prudent to do, so I don't have to take it all apart again. All right, here's a quick shot of the bead of silicone, one continuous bead that goes around the whole water pump, theoretically unbroken. That's why I don't like working with this stuff. It's kind of tricky. And then the other thing I did was I put a bead on the back side of that gasket, and I've installed it. So there's silicone on 2 sides. So hopefully that'll be enough. Okay, so I'm just about to make my second attempt at starting this. I'm kind of waiting for the radiator fluid to dissipate throughout the engine bay here. I failed to actually get video of the timing mark for the top dead center, and I probably should have, but I buttoned everything up so it's more difficult to show it now. And I kind of wanted to not assemble it as much as I did, in case something does go wrong, and then I can kind of troubleshoot it. But you just kind of like, you have to kind of put everything back. The only thing I didn't install was kind of like the air hoses here, intake air hoses. So in any case, once I get the radiator fluid in, I'll go ahead and start it. I'll do the same thing where I'll crank the engine without the fuel pump, and then reinsert the fuse, and then try starting it, and hopefully the timing will be correct and there'll be no leaks. All right. Okay, so here are some kind of summary thoughts now that I can actually speak. I was quite nervous before starting it because if it started leaking or the timing was off, I would have been uh, pretty upset. So initially it started fine, and then it started kind of cycling like it did before. So I was a little bit concerned. So I increased the idle via the idle screw right in there, and I backed it out, meaning more air in, which is higher idle. And once I did that, I had to do that, I think 3/4 of a turn, and then it kind of stabilized. The other thing that kind of freaked me out was I noticed some water or some radiator fluid right down there, and I was preparing my mind and emotions to accept the fact that it was leaking again, but the thought occurred that it's probably fluid from when I had disassembled everything, and just remnants of it was just falling through because of the vibration of the engine, and that's exactly what happened. So no further leakage was present, other than that initial whatever, a few ounces or so of radiator fluid, and I think that's from just that whole area, because the back cover I didn't remove, and there's a lot of fluid back there. So there's still a number of things to do. I got to put obviously the air hoses back, and then the shroud. The other thing I have to do is get it off the jacks, go for a little bit of a drive so that the suspension settles, and then I have to tighten those bolts on the lower control arms that I had to loosen for the motor mounts. The engine vibrates quite a bit, and I want to say that's because of the motor mount, and I believe that's okay. The driver's side seemed to vibrate more than the passenger side. I don't know if that makes a difference or if that's how it is, and it's okay. But it seems like everything's okay for the most part. Somewhat surreal for me because I had to go through the different highs and lows of this project. I will say that the order of which things are disassembled and put back together is important. It's necessary in that you'll find quickly that you can't put something back because something else wasn't put in front of it. That's underneath when you do the clutch slave cylinder. You have to take the alternator off slightly in order to do that. Same thing with this oil return tube there and the alternator bracket. There's just a bunch of stuff that you need to do in order. And when I was reassembling everything, I kept on having to kind of do it over and over again because I had the order incorrect. I wasn't following any directions. I was just putting it back together based on memory. So that's just a tidbit. Just kind of think it through. There's a number of bolts that I have not torqued to spec because I believe the thread is stripped on the female side, on the engine side, and so I didn't want to torque it down anymore. But I had done a couple tricks where I either used a longer bolt and was able to grab a little bit more, or I actually used standard threading. I've done that trick a couple times before, and then once on this oil return area. Anyway, so I'm gonna call it a day for tonight, and then do everything else tomorrow when there's more time.